Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about, in my opinion, what I believe is the most manipulative zodiac sign. It applies and pertains to the sun, moon, and ascendant. Anyway, first off is I would say that Aries certainly would not be the most manipulative zodiac sign because, I mean, Aries is just very forthright and outspoken and to the point. If they want to solve get something resolved or done, get something done, it's usually done by their aggressiveness, their assertiveness. They're often very direct and confrontational to the point where they really are just so averse to anything surreptitious or sneaky. I mean, and that is usually what manipulative behavior can be connected with. And they prefer to be very outright as far as resorting, and really they're not ones that would resort to manipulation. And manipulation can sometimes be connected with really spitefulness and vengeance. And they are just really, they're on to their next battle, so to speak. They can be easily angered, but not ones that are going to hold a grudge. So they are, so it definitely not, I wouldn't see Aries as being the most manipulative zodiac sign. Now going to Taurus. Now Taurus, I wouldn't put them there either. Taurus is about stability, harmony, and tranquility. If Taurus had to resort to some devious manipulative tactics, it could potentially disrupt their peace because that behavior, that they might be concerned that it might fall back on them at some point and ruin their peaceful existence. And Taurus really often just simply gets what they want in life through methodical, laborious work, and really they are not ones that have to really are going to do anything on a really in terms of manipulation with anybody, generally speaking. Now, going to Gemini. Well, Gemini could be a good candidate. They certainly have the ability to outmaneuver and outwit others. Sometimes manipulation can be connected with this, but the really, but even another part of manipulation can be tied into jealousy, bitterness, and vengeful behavior. And Gemini is generally not one that's going to hold malice or hold animosity or towards someone for any protracted period. And Gemini is just so really, they want to do things so quickly. They're so restless, and having to resort to manipulative tactics, they might simply feel it would just take too much time out of their schedule to actually have to do that. They are really, they just really don't have that in them, generally speaking, because it would be too time consuming. Gemini is also very lighthearted and whimsical, and they just don't have the persistence to follow up on things that would require really at least extensive manipulation, so to speak. So I would not put Gemini at the top of that list as the most manipulative zodiac sign. Now going to the zodiac sign Cancer. Now, Cancer is a zodiac sign that could be very sympathetic, often very caring. They're the nurturers of the zodiac. They understand what it's like to be hurt, and they also would understand, therefore, how manipulation may really hurt somebody, and in doing things of a manipulative nature, how that could impact a person negatively. And the thing about it is, they really, I think Cancer unequivocally, at least in my opinion, is the sign that does love the strongest. And manipulative behavior is often connected, as I stated before, with vengeful, vindictive energy. Cancer is one that might brood and lament for a protracted period. In some cases, if they become really emotionally hurt, they may resort to that kind of behavior, but it's not something that is really consistent with Cancer. So I would not say I don't think Cancer is at the top of that list. Now, going to Leo. Well, Leo, being a fire sign, like Aries, is one of those tell it like it is personalities. They often have a very forgive and forget philosophy and outlook. And again, manipulation can often be connected with vindictive and vengeful behavior. Leo, I think the way they are, they're they're so connected with pride, and I think to them it would almost be demeaning to them where they would have to stoop that low to have to really be manipulating somebody to get something. They feel that they could attain what they want through their own efforts because they think they are simply good enough to do it. They have so much confidence and self-assuredness in them. It's just not something that they would really think that they would have to use to actually to do something like that. It would be very petty. They would see this as, I think, generally speaking, and as I stated before, they just would not. They would be too proud to demean themselves or lower themselves, resort to that kind of behavior. So I would say no to Leo as far as that goes. Now, Virgo. I mean, Virgo is known to be very ethical and scrupulous and known for their good behavior and doing things, with their integrity and doing things properly. They often may be very averse, actually, to doing something that they think could be wrong. And the thing about it is they are, and it might not be something that, they are just really about doing things in the right way. And they think, and I would say with Virgo, resorting to some kind of manipulative tactics, it could be something in some cases they could sit back and analyze for a little bit and say, well, should I do this? Should I resort to this kind of behavior? And generally speaking, with Virgo, after their analysis, so to speak, I think they often come to a conclusion that they would not resort to those kind of tactics. As I stated before, they're about being ethical, about being honest, they're about their integrity. They want to do things in the right manner, and they are ones that really that would not generally resort to that kind of behavior. So I don't see Virgo being that sign that is the most manipulative zodiac sign. Now, I would say Libra is not the most manipulative zodiac sign either. Libra is about being equitable, being fair-minded, and about balance. They are often, like Taurus, they're about harmony and peace, and often will go to great lengths to attain this harmony and peace in their lives. And the thing about it is they would often be more inclined to negotiate a situation or try to find reconciliation with somebody as opposed to having to manipulate somebody, perhaps in a form of vengeance, getting back at somebody for doing something that might have hurt them. They would rather try to go to that person and attempt a reconciliation and try to make up with that person, so to speak, rather than do that, or perhaps even consult an attorney in some cases and do things through the law, as Libra can be connected with that. And Libra, of course, can abhor injustice, but will, as I stated before, will often go to just try to resolve the situation through perhaps litigation and with the law. So anyway, so I just don't see, and I think what happens with Libra too, of course, they're notorious for weighing the pros and cons of something. And I think what they do is in situations like that, where they might be debating if they have to resort to manipulative behavior, they could say, well, the cons are certainly outweighing the pros. Well, next up, as far as Sagittarius goes, well, Sagittarius certainly would not be a candidate. I mean, Sag is often about veracity and speaking their at least their veritable truth. And manipulation can often involve deception of some kind and some kind of trickery. Sagittarius can certainly have an anathema to that. Sagittarius is often concerned more with the truth and the facts over fallacy, and they are so, often connected with doing what is lawful. They don't want to resort to something that might be even unlawful, maybe in as far as a higher authority goes, because Sagittarius could often be very religious. So as far as that goes, Sagittarius would not be that sign. And they really, and as I stated before, the manipulation is a lot of times that is tied in to getting back at somebody. And Sagittarius is not one to be very vengeful or holding grudges for protracted periods. They're off to their next adventure very shortly. If something angers them, they often get over it very quickly because they have that propensity to just basically not worry or think about something too much after it happens, because they are so lighthearted and really in very just jocular, jovial personalities. So anyway, well, next up is Capricorn. Well, Capricorn could certainly be a good candidate. I mean, they are generally very orthodox and conventional people. However, Capricorn, in a rather negative manifestation, may resort to do whatever means necessary to attain their ambitions, and sometimes it's ruthless ambition. I mean, they are sometimes. I mean, Capricorn doesn't always play fair and by the rules, even though, you know, generally speaking, the sign can be connected with that, but it's sometimes, if it's trying to get ahead, sometimes manipulation can be connected with this, but it's not as emphasized with this sign as the sign I'm going to choose at the end of the video. So I would not say that that sign is Capricorn. Well, next up, Aquarius. Well, Aquarius may be certainly the most cerebral, unequivocally, I think, the most cerebral of the zodiac signs. And if Aquarius really wanted to find ways to manipulate others, they certainly can find unique and maybe even ingenious ways to doing it. I think they could probably be very proficient at starting cyber wars, and without really really involving other people, and not even having it come back on them, because Aquarius, as I stated, is very smart, and this is a sign, of course, connected with computers and the internet. But the thing about Aquarius is they are very future-oriented, forward-oriented, progressive. They are ones that generally will not look back on a situation, unlike, say, Cancer. Of course, Cancer can lament and brood and pout about something for a prolonged or protracted period. Aquarius is about moving forward and not backwards. And they are ones, I mean, and when you're moving forward, you're generally one that's not going to be worried about trying to manipulate somebody as a form, and often that is, as I stated, where it's a form of getting even and vengeance. So that is not that. I would not say Aquarius is the most manipulative zodiac sign. Now, getting to Pisces. Well, I don't think Pisces is the most manipulative zodiac sign either. They certainly could have a propensity for this if it's really expressed negatively. If their energy in a very negative manifestation, Pisces can be exceptionally deceptive and duplicitous. But they are not, however, they are often very passive and often have difficulty defending themselves. And defending themselves, sometimes people will do something of a manipulative nature, because that could be a form of retaliation. Pisces is often very docile, and is usually not one to really resort to that kind of behavior. So I really don't, but as I stated, they actually can be maybe one of the more manipulative zodiac signs if they are emphasizing that deception and duplicitous side of that nature. So anyway, well, the sign that I'm going to choose is actually a Scorpio. I think Scorpio is unequivocally the most manipulative of the zodiac signs. I mean, a lot of this is connected, I think, being ruled by Pluto. Pluto, of course, connected with manipulation. The Mars co-rulership, of course, could give energy to this. Manipulation, I think, is this power and control with Scorpio. Manipulation, I think, it gives Scorpio the feeling of power, and that they could often try to conquer somebody or some situation with it. It's often, I mean, Scorpio, I think, is the most surreptitious and sneaky of the zodiac signs. They could be very cunning, and this is how, I mean, maybe this plays a role. They could be so subtle in how they do things. They could get information out of you by barely saying anything, or maybe not even saying anything. I remember one time when I was little, I was doing something I wasn't supposed to do, and my grandmother, who has a Scorpio ascendant, basically, she didn't even say anything to me. I said, "Oh, did you tell my mom I did such and such?" And she said, "No, Eddie, you just did." So sometimes Scorpio can just get that information from you just by even looking at you a certain way. They are just the masters of manipulating things and really doing things, getting things done. Whatever it is they are set out to do, and really, as I stated before, a lot of it has to do with the fact they're very cunning, they're very surreptitious, very sneaky. They are ones, they can get As I stated before, they could get information out of people, was sometimes not saying anything, barely saying anything, and they are really, and a lot of their manipulation, I think, is tied into their feelings of vengeance and vindictiveness, and sometimes jealousy. Sometimes with that jealousy, this anger, this animosity towards somebody, and they will try to really, and they could resort to manipulative behaviors such as telling lies about somebody that they don't like, just to get other people to turn on them. I remember one time I was staying somewhere. I was renting a room out from somebody that had his from this guy's girlfriend, and the guy, her boyfriend, was a Scorpio sun in Scorpio, and I had reason to believe that he was stating, making up negative things about me to his members of his family because he saw me as a threat there. In other words, to maybe supplant him as a father image or what have you. And it was a lot of jealousy, and I knew he had animosity toward me, and he tried to say negative, to make up, fabricate derogatory things about me in order to really, I guess you can almost say, solidify his position, so to speak, there, and to maybe turn and make other people less friendly with me there. So, I mean, that was just, and that is how Scorpio people will act. Scorpio will kind of do their thing, often from behind the scenes. They might not actually come out to you and directly do something, but Scorpio will do, may act like everything's okay with you to your face, but what they can do is they could be the masters at the backbiting. What they do is they will say something very compelling and very persuasive that will convince somebody really something about somebody else that may not even be true, because they just have that ability. The powers of persuasion are very strongly connected with their manipulation ability. And the thing about this too is, and I like to get to, I think, you look at a real negative manifestation. You look at like a Charles Manson, a sun in Scorpio. I mean, he used manipulation toward very nefarious means. I mean, he led so many people into that cult of his that was very malevolent and nefarious, of course, and to do his evil bidding. And I mean, he was really able to be, I mean, I'm not lauding him for this, but he was very proficient at that, unfortunately. And the thing about it is, so Scorpio, another reason why they are masters at their manipulation, at this craft, so to speak, is because they are also, in my opinion, the ultimate quintessential detectives. So you're thinking, well, how does that, what does that have to do with manipulation? Well, what it has to do with is the fact that Scorpio will often be able to find dirt on you. When I say dirt, I mean negative things about you, about your past, a criminal record, for instance. And they'll often be able to find that, a greater propensity of doing that as opposed to the other signs on average. And they will often use that against you as a form of manipulation. For example, well, you know what, if you do such and such, if you don't do this for me, I'm going to spill the beans on you and reveal your criminal record. Just saying that as an example. They also, the thing about Scorpio too is they can often detect subterfuge and superficiality from others very quickly. And what happens is, and they sense somebody is trying to manipulate them, that they use that as an excuse, I think, a lot of times, to manipulate those people, to get them back for making an attempt to manipulate them. So that is something to look at as well. And going back, I mean, they are the quintessential ultimate detectives, I think. They will often, not only are they good at trying to finding out negative things pertaining to you, they can actually, I think, of all the signs, they could detect your weakness, your weak points quicker than just about anybody. I really think than any other sign on average, and they could use that against you. Like, say if you have like a bad temper or something, they could use that as a means at a later point in time to try to trick you. I mean, this is a little extreme, but it can apply. Try to trick you into losing your cool, then put an assault charge on you. They have the way, they know somebody's weak spot often in a heartbeat, and they can often use that against somebody. And the thing about this too is, as I stated before, I think what's interesting is that you have, how actors and actresses often will be drawn to roles that can correspond with their astrological energies, whether it be on a conscious or subconscious level at times. And I think there's one person that comes to mind. The first person I think of is Eva Longoria, who, according to Astro.com, has Scorpio rising. I think it was like a C rating, but I feel strongly that she likely does have a Scorpio ascendant. And on that show Desperate Housewives, she played a very manipulative character on that show. The character's name, I believe, is Gabrielle Solis, and I mean, she was really always trying to manipulate things to meet her own ends, and became, I would say, very proficient at it. And I think that was a lot of that Scorpio energy coming out. Now, another interesting example of this, there's an actor by the name of Sean, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right, Cannon. He was in the Karate Kid Part 3 movie. I believe, and he played Ralph Macchio's nemesis. He went up against him in a tournament. But in that movie, what happened was Sean Cannon is a Sun in Scorpio. Ironically enough, Ralph Macchio is another Sun in Scorpio person. Sometimes it takes a Scorpio to outmaneuver another, right? But many of you that may have seen that movie know the scene I'm talking about. What happened was Ralph Macchio was at the bottom of a hill or something, and what happened was it was a very big hill, and he had his rope with him, and he could get back up if he had the rope. But what happened was the other Sun in Scorpio, Sean Cannon, what he did was, or at least one of his group friends did, pulled the rope up so Ralph Macchio couldn't climb back up the hill. And then he says, well, you either throws him some paper or something, a contract, saying that you either sign this and you're going to go you're going to fight me in that tournament, or I'm not going to throw this rope down to you, and you're going to be stranded down here indefinitely. So I mean, the thing is, as I stated before, it's just so uncanny how you have these actors and actresses that are so drawn to these roles that seem to correspond with their astrological natures. So, and it just never ceases to fail. And anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the most manipulative zodiac sign. And stay tuned next time, where I'm going to be giving you my Taurus July 2018 horoscope forecast. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.